Remain seated, please. Permanecer sentados, por favor.
3 years ago, on September 22nd, 2020, I posted a video titled, Why Phineas and Ferb Act Your Age Frustrates Me. And that video ended up absolutely exploding in popularity. Until I made the period piece video, it was the most viewed video on this channel by a long shot. And I figured that since we're getting closer and closer to Phineas and Ferb coming back for a 5th and 6th season, and because I've gotten way better at making videos since then, that now was a good time to remake that video. Phineas and Ferb both does and doesn't have a finale. Towards the tail end of Season 4 of Phineas, Disney had ordered 5-hour-long specials. This was of course in addition to the hour-long special they already had done, which means that Season 4 actually had 6-hour-long specials.
Aunt May! Phineas and Ferb are making a crossover!
The other ones were the Star Wars crossover, Save Summer, Night of the Living Pharmacist, The Alka Files, which was a backdoor pilot, and an as-yet undecided 5th special. The show was about ready to go on a long hiatus, and the decision Dan and Swampy faced was try to continue the show after this long hiatus, or use these 5-hour-long specials to be the incredible send-off to an amazing show. They made the decision to make one of those hour-long specials the series finale. The Last Day of Summer, which was, in my opinion, a perfect note for the show to go out on. Interestingly enough, none of the proposed spin-offs such as The Alka Files or The Fireside Girls happened, and we ultimately got Milo Murphy's Law instead, which is what I'd call a spin-on of Phineas and Ferb, in that it wasn't based on an existing character, but it still takes place in that world with those characters.
It was the first day of summer. Everything seemed normal. I just finished assembling a cool science project in my backyard when suddenly... Done! I used to love roller coasters, but I didn't know they could drop from the sky and crush your dreams.
Why were you assembling a science project on the first day of summer?
Melissa, you understand that the chances of that happening again are like even less than it happening the first time?
There was a Phineas and Ferb crossover, which they had built up to all throughout Season 1, and Doofenshmirtz continued to be in the main cast through Season 2, with Perry making regular appearances.
My building! I crash on your couch.
Nice to meet you guys. And remember, we're just on the other side of town, so feel free to cross over anytime.
We will.
And we still haven't seen any of the Milo characters since the series ended.
It'd be good to get back to our planet, where the only thing we have to deal with is Murphy's Law. Oops. I think we're gonna need another ship.
It's my world and we're all living in it.
And while Milo was stuck in purgatory awaiting a renewal that would never come, Disney approached Dan, Swampy, and company to make a brand new Phineas and Ferb movie for Disney+, which of course would be Candace Against the Universe. After Candace Against the Universe, Swampy continued making Pete the Cat for Amazon Prime, and also started making Hey AJ for Disney Junior. Meanwhile, Dan went on to become a TikToker.
Hey, Dr. Doofenshmirtz.
What's up, my dude?
I'm just trying to see something. What's this?
A platypus.
And this?
Perry the platypus.
Interesting. How about this?
A 1956 Thunderbird.
And this?
Perry the 1956 Thunderbird.
Dang, this is wild. Okay, now how about this?
You?
And this?
You, but now you're an even bigger dweeb?
You know, we don't have to do this anymore. I'm just gonna go.
Oh yeah, and he also made Hamster and Gretel.
Hamster, 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 and Gretel. That's also Kevin in the minivan.
And of course, Doofenshmirtz had a brief cameo on that show.
I should have finished high school.
And after some weird false hope at D23 that turned out to be Dan and Swampy doing a rap about Disney Channel.
Bumped, it's a show set in Camp Kikiwaka. And if you haven't seen a human living under a rock, it's in the wilderness, so it can get a little messy. And if these kids look familiar, it's a spin-off of Jesse. Jesse.
I promise you, anyone who has not seen Bunked has not been living, quote, under a rocka. It was confirmed towards the beginning of this year that Phineas and Ferb would be getting picked up for a 5th and 6th season to debut on Disney Channel and Disney+. But of course, in this video, we're going to focus on the last regular episode of the show's original run. And when I say regular, I just mean that it's the last standard 22-minute episode that aired. It's obviously anything but a normal episode. This episode, titled Act Your Age, had been something of a mystery hype machine in the fandom back in the day. I mean, I can't think of any other episodes that were known about and hyped for over 3 years prior to their release. Like, we didn't even know about Candace Against the Universe for that long. But this was supposed to be an episode focused on Phineas and Isabella's relationship, with a song that made everyone cry. So, of course a lot of fans were excited for it. The crew continued to drop little hints and bits about the episode, and easily the coolest thing about it is that Ashley Michelle Simpson was hired to do the character designs because she gave Dan a piece of fan art she had drawn of Phineas and Ferb as teenagers at Comic-Con one year, and they immediately fell in love with her designs.
And I told Swampy, you know that girl who does the teenage drawings of Phineas? If we can find her, we should try to hire her to do it.
I was skeptical at first because I didn't believe it would happen to someone like me. So when it did, I was really excited.
Dan actually had to create a DeviantArt account to get in contact with her.
You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
And after she did the character designs for Act Your Age, she continued to work on Milo Murphy's Law, Candace Against the Universe, the Paul Rudish Mickey shorts, and she's still working at Disney Television Animation to this day. She, like everyone else on the crew, is awesome. And then things got weird. Remember when True Colors got delayed so they could add a content warning to it, but it still ended up getting released on iTunes because they didn't get the memo?
The waiting. The feeling of free fall. Of limbo. The horror. The absolute horror.
Marcy!
Never get onto the phone. Absolutely dadgum right. Unless you're going all the way to iTunes.
Well, this was nothing like that. Because it was so much worse. It was almost a year before the episode was actually supposed to air. That's right, it randomly aired in May of 2014 in New Zealand. They showed a clip of the episode at Comic-Con in 2014, then it aired in friggin' Russia later in August of 2014. And that just blows my mind that they were unable to stop 2 international airings from happening. Like, I know that international stuff would have to be dubbed, although New Zealand's version wasn't, it aired in English. Still, you'd think they'd have more control over the release schedule. And I made a joke about how things have only gotten worse in the original video, but actually, things have gotten way better since then, because international Disney channels keep shutting down. The long-awaited episode finally aired in America just in time for Valentine's Day 2015. And, it was okay. So basically the rundown of the plot is that Phineas is still trying to decide on a school 2 weeks before classes start, meaning he's gonna have a heck of a time actually putting together a halfway decent class schedule.
Also, you need to commit to a college like 6 months before you go to college. Yes! You gotta buy textbooks. Schedule.
There's no way he is picking a college I don't care how smart you are. There's no way you're picking a college 2 weeks before the college starts.
Phineas is either going to have the shittiest schedule, taking the worst electives, or every single class he's going to be waitlisted.
Baljeet mentions Isabella leaving for school.
So she's leaving?
Yes. I always thought the two of you would end up together.
I wish. I am so in the friend zone there.
I hate that word.
And of course, everyone decides that the day Isabella is leaving for school is the perfect day to tell him about her crush on him.
You do know she had a giant crush on you for ages.
You know, since you were kids, she's had a huge crush on you.
Why didn't you guys ever tell me?
We are guys. We did not talk about feelings.
We'll come back to this. So Phineas wonders if all those years were misspent. Meanwhile, in the most fun part of the episode, Doofenshmirtz is actively trying to have a midlife crisis. This, of course, coming before he's the inventor of time travel. Ferb and the rest of the gang try to set up a date for Phineas and Isabella.
It's like when we were kids, building stuff in Phineas and Ferb's backyard.
Never mind the fact that she was already leaving for school directly after her shift. Did they seriously not know this? Anyways, their dinner date disappears due to Doof's antics.
Wow, now it's exactly like it was when we were kids.
Great, so that accomplished nothing. We get the song, which is a really nice song. And at the end of the episode, Phineas and Isabella finally physically meet and talk for like 2 minutes in a scene that feels like it could have been taken from any high school rom-com where they're about to go to college. Aside from the funny gag where Phineas picks the wrong letter.
You're off to college.
Tri-state state. Have you decided where you're going yet?
You know what? I just did.
Oh. Huh.
Hey, what's wrong? Oh, shoot. I'm sorry. Wrong letter.
Well, I guess I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yes. Yes, you will.
Phineas was only able to register for Intro to Underwater Basket Weaving for his first fall semester of classes. He ended up opening his own grilled cheese food truck on campus and is now pursuing a liberal arts degree.
Good job, Phineas.
Then Ferb, Baljeet, and the Fireside Girls show up and clap like they work at a Universal ride. Or like they're a bunch of white people and the plane just landed.
We have been trying to get you two together all day.
You guys are the best.
Well, my work is done here.
What do you mean your work is done? You didn't do anything.
Didn't I?
Then Vanessa pulls up in a convertible to pick up Ferb, and this is something I'm actually going to go a little more in depth with here because it honestly makes me extremely uncomfortable. Anyways, Phineas goes and kisses Isabella in the middle of the street. And Swampy cries, which is honestly my favorite joke in the whole episode.
You know, I got a thing. I'm just gonna...
growing up.
So, why does this episode still drive me crazy? Well, for starters, this isn't exactly the episode's fault, but to the casual observer, showing the main characters going off to college indicates that they've grown up and won't show up as kids again. And since seasons 5 and 6 were announced, one of the most common questions people have asked is, oh, are they going to be in college in this? No, they're not. Well, maybe sometimes, but most of the time, no. Not only did we never get any sort of explanation as to what happened with Vanessa and Monty, I'm sorry, this is just creepy no matter how you break it down, and I really don't like it. Unless we're implying that every single one of Phineas and Ferb's friends took a gap year or two after high school, according to this episode's math, Ferb is 18, just out of high school, and Vanessa is 26. This feels like they just did what the most fans wanted without thinking about the implications of it. Compare that to Gravity Falls, where Dipper has a crush on Wendy, but ultimately has to come to terms with the fact that she's too old for him.
Man. Listen, Dipper, I'm, like, super flattered, but I'm too old for you. I mean, you know that, right?
Mabel said confessing would make me feel better.
Well, how do you feel?
Anxious, and scared, kind of itchy.
Dude, don't be itchy, man.
And they're only 3 years apart! To be clear, an 8-year age difference is weird when it's someone you've known since they were 8 and you're dating them fresh out of high school. Hey, remember when Transformers Age of Extinction ground to a screeching halt so that they could explain why it was okay for a 20-year-old to be dating a 17-year-old? Yeah, as fucking weird as that is, at least they actually went to high school together. Ferb was still in elementary school when Vanessa was graduating high school. That kind of age gap is not a big deal when you get older. Like, if Vanessa was 26 dating someone who's 34, I wouldn't bat an eye. There's a much bigger difference in maturity between 18 and 26 than there is between 26 and 34. The best case scenario here is that Vanessa is dating this barely legal 18-year-old who she's still known since he was 8 years old. And the worst case scenario is something I don't even want to think about. Okay, obviously there is a conflict, but it gets resolved so easily. Phineas's plot is obviously the one with the most consequence. Doof's plot is a fun side trip, and then the stuff with the other kids is just kind of there. I know the Phineas and Ferb plots are not usually where you see conflict, but this is where the specials are supposed to be different. Look at Summer Belongs to You and Night of the Living Pharmacist. Here, Phineas wonders if he wasted all those years focused on making the most of every day by building stuff, when he should have been focused more on his best friend, who he didn't realize he had feelings for until later. I'd argue that's not on him, but we get a brief glimpse at something that could be potentially interesting, only for the episode to immediately pull back so that we can have a happy ending. Nope, of course none of that ends up being important. Of course things end up working out and it's implied that they get together and live happily ever after a 2-minute conversation and one makeout session in the middle of the road. You know how people will sometimes say that people confuse the first 10 minutes of Up with the rest of Up? Well, I disagree with that. I think Up is a great movie. But that's how I feel about this episode. The song is nice, the doof plot is fun. Like I said, I think it's actually the best part of the episode. But the whole thing just feels forgettable. And that shouldn't be the case for a big, supposedly character-driven episode. And speaking of the characters... honestly, my biggest problem, aside from Ferb and Vanessa, is the way the characters act. Apparently, act your age is either referring to the doof plot, or the writing direction to make all of the kid characters act like the most boring caricatures of a teenager possible. They all just spend the episode sitting around, gossiping, and eating food.
Yeah, we're at odds deciding what movie to see later. He wants to go to the one about that planet, and I want to see the one with that guy. Well, don't fight about it. Manipulate the situation.
Why do parents buy such weird food? Everything's light, low, non-free, or diet.
This may be the last time I'm stuffing your faces before I'm off to school.
Ginger texting you again?
Yes, the girls want to get Phineas and Isabella together.
Wasn't that our idea?
Yes, but now I've got to write her back in a passive way that makes her think it's really her idea.
The most obvious example of this is how Buford and Baljeet act in the beginning.
We are guys. We do not talk about feelings.
I would not mind talking about my feelings.
How do you feel now?
In pain?
There, we're done. I guess that was fun. I'm so happy that I found you. I worry about you, you know, because you're my best friend.
Wait a minute. Why is that dweeb going into my subconscious?
Because this dweeb spent 2 weeks in psychology camp last summer.
So how did that make you feel?
A big honking hole in my heart.
We do not talk about feelings. Did you see the new car Irving got?
Can we eat yet? I'm starving.
I'm sorry. I feel like my brain is broken.
But the biggest thing I don't like is the implication that Phineas and Isabella would drift apart the way they're shown to in the song. I understand that people drift apart in real life, but everyone else in their friend group stayed close friends. So why did this happen to them and only them? And why did their friends wait until they were 18 to finally try to get them together? It doesn't make any sense based on what we know about their friendship, and what we know about their friends. You seriously expect me to believe that the Fireside Girls didn't ever try to get them together at a school dance? Because I call shenanigans on that. Phineas is generally oblivious towards Isabella's feelings towards him, but that doesn't mean he doesn't care about her with every fiber of his being.
Isabella teaches the emergency preparedness class for the Fireside Girls. She could build a generator in her sleep. Is that not right, Isabella?
Isabella? I thought she was... Didn't anyone... Who saw her last? Ah! Ah!
You can chill out, you're fine. I'm vindicated.
Isabella has a crush on Phineas, but that doesn't mean she would just give up on being friends with him. I'm not here to speculate about the timeline, but we know that Isabella and Phineas knew each other for some period of time before the summer the show primarily exists in. He might have known her before Ferb came into the picture, he might not have. We don't know. But in the last day of summer, Candace activates Doofenshmirtz's do-overinator and causes a time loop.
I know what we're gonna do today. I know what
This time loop starts creating rifts in the space-time continuum, and anything that gets sucked into a rift is immediately forgotten about by everyone but Candace and Doof.
Wow, crazy how it sucked up that groundhog, huh?
The what?
Phineas and Ferb, along with a bunch of other things like spoons and oranges, get sucked into these rifts.
Aren't you glad we have something to eat? You're right, you're right.
Phineas and Ferb are gone!
I'm sure it's going to be all right, dear, but who are Phineas and Ferb?
Once that happens, we don't see Isabella smile once until she sees Phineas again.
I am totally listening.
I am so not listening.
Me neither.
guys! So good to see you.
She's much less happy and more dry and sarcastic without him. That stuff has always been a part of her, but I think it's safe to say that Isabella just wouldn't be the same person she is without Phineas. It's not just that she likes him, it's that he brings out the best in her, and she brings out the best in him.
You built a roller coaster through downtown! You made giant treehouse robots! You traveled through time, for crying out loud, twice!
But, Isabella, there's nothing here for me to work with.
Well, that's not the Phineas Flynn that I fell into this situation with.
I get what they were going for with this, but ultimately, I just don't think it works. It feels more like a fanfic than anything else. Which brings me to my next point. I think the episode works way better if you think of it as a fanfic, either written by Isabella or maybe even Irving. It's sappy and somehow both over the top and underwhelming as hell, but it's also out of character and mainly just a means to an end. What's really ironic is that a fanfic Phineas and Ferb musical, the musical without a cool acronym, handled the confession a lot better, and it's not jettisoned 10 years into the future where it'll never affect the present day versions of the characters ever again.
Well, I really like you, Isabella. You're kind, and you helped us win at laser tag.
Oh, you're not getting it!
Whoa. Oh, so that was... Oh, and you meant... And the thing with the text message, that was you...
Yeah.
Oh. Gee, well, if that's how you felt about me, why didn't you just tell me?
I wanted to! I've tried! It's just... You've always got your head somewhere else. It's always about, socket wrenches and combustion engines, and never about, girls.
I guess you're right. Huh. Maybe I am a little too young to think about that stuff.
Right, you've never had those kind of feelings for me.
Well, it's never really crossed my mind, but then again, I'm just a kid. Minus the socket wrenches and combustion engines. I do think you're really special. You're sweet, and you're crafty, and cute, and a great leader, and when the time comes when I do think about those things, who knows?
So, what you're saying is, in the future, there's hope?
There's always hope.
Oh, but until then, everything is gonna be so weird between us.
Is there a reason they have to be? You're my best friend. After Ferb, of course.
And Buford! Right?
Sure. The point is, I can't imagine spending the summer without you.
Well, that's a feeling that goes both ways.
By the way, if you haven't watched the musical without a cool acronym, fix that. It's an absolute delight. It was a huge passion project made by some amazing friends of mine. I feel like it would have been way more interesting to see Phineas have to come to terms with knowing that his best friend has feelings for him, feelings that he doesn't quite understand, and to see how Isabella would feel about him finally knowing, especially since he wouldn't feel the same way just yet, and they obviously wouldn't start having a serious relationship yet, because, they're still just kids at that point. And I feel like they were just worried about breaking the status quo or messing with the dynamic between them. But I don't think that gives their relationship enough credit, because their friendship is strong enough to withstand anything. And now, since I've been griping about a lot, here are some moments I genuinely love.
Camford on Oxbury. It sounds like a wizard school.
It's not a wizard school. Well, there is some wizarding.
And that concludes my dissertation on modern investigative techniques for establishing proof of guilt with or without physical evidence.
Spectacular! I've never had a student convince me of something so completely baseless before.
Now I feel like busting someone.
So, what else you got?
We got another one just like it, but in yellow.
You hear that? It'll be like driving a really fast Ducky Momo.
Mishty, mishty, mishty.
Let it go, Ginge.
Might have been an item.
They would have called us Finabella.
Wait a minute, does anything rhyme with Finabella? Nah, screw it.
Hi there. You know, one of the best things about being a successful scientist is that I get to meet lots of attractive women, such as yourself.
You want to know the best part about being a jump instructor?
What?
You know how every day for the last 20 years I've relaxed with a nice cup of Earl Grey? Well, not today, Linda. Today I'm pulling out all the stops. Darjeeling.
You are a madman.
So overall, I wouldn't call Act Your Age an irredeemable garbage fire or anything. In fact, the only Phineas and Ferb episode I would say is actually bad is actually so bad it's not on Disney+.
Co-host? I don't like the sound of that. Sounds like a demotion.
Enough of you two.
Well, it's bad, but at least it's not that live show with those terrifying costumes. Oh god, no! Kill it with fire! Kill it with fire! Kill it with fire! There's some funny jokes, some great animation, and a genuinely great song. But overall, it's kind of lackluster. And that's a real shame, because there was so much more that I think they could have done with an episode like this. When they were working on stuff like Act Your Age and Last Day of Summer, the goal was to wrap things up and give fans a satisfying conclusion, while leaving things open for them to be able to come back and make more Phineas and Ferb in the future. When Dan and Swampy talked about why they made the decision to end the show back in 2015, Dan said, "We'd gotten through these 4 seasons, and then they wanted to do all these hour-long specials. They felt like they were getting more bang for their buck with the hour-long specials. And it was like, well, if we're gonna do the hour-long specials, I don't know that they'll necessarily want to go back and do a series after that. So if we're doing the hour-long specials, one of them should be, you know, the finale. Let's do that and just say, okay, we'll do it in such a way that if you want to at any point in the future, you can make more." And sure enough, that's exactly what's happening. So what could be? Is anything gonna change with the new episodes? Well, it seems like Doofenshmirtz is gonna go back to being evil, so I think it's safe to say we'll definitely still be seeing Isabella crushing on Phineas. But will they ignore Act Your Age and actually develop their relationship more? Well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Hey, I'm really glad you told me.
Well, it's about time.
Wait, what? Did you all know about this?
Well, it's not like we were...
Oh, no, you know, I always just kind of figured...
Oh, yes, she was being incredibly overt.